It's time to get educated on your Second Amendment rights. Welcome to 2 full hours of Gun Owners Radio. Your hosts, Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz will teach you about firearms, self-defense, and the laws that affect your rights to keep and bear arms. Visit gunownersradio.com with questions to learn how to become a sponsor of Gun Owners Radio and get involved. Together, we will win. Now here's your hosts, Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz on The Answer San Diego.
All right, folks. Hey, welcome. You are listening to Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
Nice. All right. Hey, if you have legal matters that involve firearms, then you need to call our attorney, John Dillon, especially if you have questions on red flag laws, gun registration, gun transportation, or maybe you just need to know that your guns are California compliant. Call our trusted firearms attorney, John Dillon. John Dillon specializes in California gun laws. Call 760-642-7150 or visit his website at dillonlawgp.com.
All right, we have a prize winner. You have Gun Owners Radio prize pack coming to you. All he did is he went to the website, which is gunownersradio.com, gunownersradio.com, signed up for our newsletter. If you want to win, join the Gun Owners Radio newsletter. It comes out once a week. And if you join, you are eligible to win a super cool sticker patches, other goodies prize pack. This week's winner is Russ Dworzashaki. I'm sure I nailed that.
Oh, I'm sure you were going to give that one to me.
We want to welcome Leo Hamel Fine Jewelers. They're a brand new sponsor for us. So you're going to hear all about Leo Hamel Fine Jewelers. Of course, Leo Hamel was a founding board member of San Diego County Gun Owners, and has the best jewelry shop in all of San Diego. Hey, everybody, I have some breaking news.
Like a teletype.
So we've been talking about. I just got a message from a mole. We'll say there was a meeting today with a group called the North County Patriots, and one of the things they did is they had Hemmerling, the anti-gun gun grabber candidate for sheriff. He was given a talk, and here's the question he was asked. This is quote unquote. This is what's being reported to me. So if it's not exact, this is what's being reported to me. The question was to Hemmerling, you've said that you want to make San Diego quote unquote shall issue when it comes to CCWs. Michael Schwartz from San Diego County Gun Owners is the expert, and he explained to me that the only way to do that is ignore the state's quote proof of good cause requirement. If you do that, you'll be breaking the law and put the entire CCW program in jeopardy of being shut down. Since San Diego County Gun Owners has already fixed the CCW program and everyone can already get a CCW, why wouldn't you just follow the current CCW policies that we have worked so hard to put in place? That was the question. He says that the answer that he gave that's being reported to me is that there are already 4 other counties that are shall issue. He's going to have to prove that because I don't know what he's talking about. That's impossible, number one. Number two, he said that the state can't shut it down because he's the authority. Guys, do not vote for Hemmerling.
Yeah, it's 5.
He is an absolute blithering idiot. I don't know if he's incompetent or, I don't know if it's incompetence or malfeasance. Malfeasance being, is he trying to ruin things? Because he's the right-hand man of an extremist anti-gun person, Mara Elliott, and now he's coming out with gun violence restraining orders, and he's coming out with this quote-unquote plan to that'll in effect do exactly what this person said, ruin the CCW program. We cannot be shall issue. I wish we could. But state law says, it's a requirement that says, hey, you have to have proof of good cause. And as soon as you, implement that, if you have to have proof of good cause, there is no way, by definition, you can be shall issue. It's always may issue. Even if we've taken all the obstacles away from that shall issue, from the proof of good cause, so there is no obstacle, right? You can get and no one's getting turned down due to good cause. We're still not shall issue. and he can't make a shall issue. And the only way to make a shall issue is to not comply with state law. Now, his question, if he does that, California DOJ is going to come in and revoke permits and probably shut down the program. Now, he says they can't do that because he has the authority. Guess what gives him that authority?
DOJ.
The state, yeah, the exact same penal code where it says, hey, you know what, Sheriff, you're the one that has the authority to issue CCWs. They also say you have to have proof of good cause. You have to. I want to get rid of that, and we should get rid of that. But the sheriff can't just decide to get rid of that, especially in the state of California. He is going to completely screw this thing up. And I've explained this to him on the phone, talked to him, straight, told him exactly what's going on. You know, and it's not a matter of, well, gee, Mike, maybe he's just using terminology that, you know, he doesn't understand, blah, blah, blah. He is an attorney. In fact, he's a prosecutor. He absolutely knows that words have meaning, especially in the legal world. And one legal term, shall issue, as opposed to may issue, there's a very, very distinct
difference between the two.
Exactly. It's defined. So, guys, you've got to reject this guy. I don't care what letter he has in front of his name, whether he's a Republican, Democrat. I know he's the endorsed Republican. I know that it's easy to get wrapped up in the idea that Republicans are always right and Democrats are always wrong. You know, but this is going to screw us all completely up. And he's not even trying to be good at this. He's not even trying to do this right. So I think that he went in front of a group called the North County Patriots, and he thought he'd throw them some red meat and say, hey, we're going to make you shall issue, in hopes of, getting them all riled up.
Well, so what did the group say after he answered that question, or do you know?
That I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure most people probably got all excited. It's a nuanced thing. This is something, and it's not surprising. I've been working on this for about a decade now. We helped solve this problem. Mm-hmm. Where was he? Why doesn't he know this? Because where was he when we were fixing this problem? He was out grabbing guns. He was out expanding gun violence restraining orders.
So he's basically, this is just another way for him to complete what he set out to do.
Could be.
Sounds like.
That could be. That's the thing. I don't know if it's incompetence or malfeasance.
Because what happens, let's say he gets voted in, and he pulls this off,
right?
And the DOJ comes in and says, all right, well, you guys are done.
So
what's he say then? Oh, I'm really sorry. I had no idea.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if he gets into office and he tries to get rid of, if he says, hey, we're going to be shall issue, and he stops complying, then that's malfeasance. That's him being doing something bad and wrong. If he gets into office and says, oh, you know what, turns out I can't do this. Talk to county council, can't do this. Then, that's incompetence. Either way, don't vote for him.
So doesn't the sheriff get to interpret the good cause? So they say you have to show good cause.
You have to have proof of good cause.
Right. And proof of good cause, is that not if they say, okay, self-defense? And if the sheriff says, hey, that's proof of good cause, then you're good.
Joe, you understand the policy better than John Hemmerling does.
But I mean, is that what he's saying? He's just not saying it correctly. Because there are counties in this state that accept just self-defense, right?
So if he's saying that and he doesn't understand it, then he's incompetent, because we sat down and talked about it. He and I spoke about this. I told him exactly why he has to change what he's saying about CCWs, explained it to him, and here he is in front of a group of people. It's about 2 weeks later. We had this conversation 2 weeks ago, and he refuses to change. He refuses to understand.
Did you really think he was going to change?
I'm a glasses half full guy. I really, it's just bad. I honestly, part of me, so we endorsed, we'll come out with we're going to come out with our voter guide soon, but we endorsed Kelly Martinez. Part of me thought, I can't believe I corrected him, because now he's going to go around and say things correctly, but he's not. He's not even good enough a candidate to go to correct himself after he's been corrected. Do not vote for John Hemmerling, guys. If you value your CCWs, if you value your guns, don't vote for John Hemmerling. Don't vote for John Hemmerling. Don't vote for John Hemmerling.
And that was the breaking news.
And in case you didn't catch it, don't vote for John Hemmerling.
Running and gunning since 1999, Lanny Barnes is next.
But first, self-defense and emergencies can happen to anyone, and there's no guarantee that the justice system will be on your side. Make sure you are protected for the legal battle after your self-defense battle. While you protect your family and property, U.S. Law Shield is here to defend you 24/7, 365 days a year, with a comprehensive self-defense coverage at affordable price. Bad guys don't take days off, and neither does our coverage. Listeners, you can get a free T-shirt when you use the promo code Gun Owners Radio. You just have to sign up today. Go to uslawshield.com.
All right, our guest today, Lanny Barnes, also known as Lanny Oakley. She is a 3-time Olympic biathlete, professional 3-gunner, artist, public speaker, chef, and she's been a professional competitor since 1999. So we wanted to have her come on the show and talk to us a little bit about her career.
You bring on a chef, and you don't have her in here cooking?
Yeah, I know, right? Lanny, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. I wish I was there to cook you guys something, but I'm on the other side of the country.
Where are you out of?
I just pulled into Georgia. I'm from Colorado, but I'm heading to South Carolina for an event.
Oh, wow. A shooting event?
It's actually a trade show, and then got a shooting event in Florida over the weekend.
Oh, cool.
Wow. Putting some miles on your car.
Yeah.
Yep.
How much do you travel for your shooting events?
You know, I travel a lot. I'm on the road quite a bit, but you know, it's one of the perks of the job to be able to travel around and meet so many wonderful people.
Now, how do you do that? How do you set up your calendar? Like, how do you know where to go and you know which competitions? I mean, it seems like every town with a range has a competition, and you know some of them are real informal, and some of them are pretty important. How is that determined? Which ones you go to and which ones you pass? You know,
I usually set up my schedule at least a year in advance, just because it can get pretty busy. But I just kind of pick the matches that interest me the most and are, in my opinion, most challenging and might have the best competition there.
That's awesome. And do you do three gun? Is that what you do most often?
Yeah. Right now, mostly 3-gun, but a little PCC and handgun and pretty much everything.
Pretty much everything. What is PCC?
Yeah.
I don't think I know.
Caliber carbine.
Pistol caliber carbine. Okay. So like the what is your PCC?
I shoot a JP5, and really like that thing.
Nice. What do you like about it?
I think probably the thing I like the most about it, which I didn't think I would, is the fact that it's so light. I can just drive that thing from one target to the other real easily, and it's really fast shooting that thing.
Joe, you just bought a PCC, didn't you? Which one did you buy?
Yeah, I got a Ruger PCC for my wife. Actually, she shoots that one, and it is definitely not light. That one's heavy, but then I'm not competing with it either. So, but it's a lot of fun to shoot. They're a blast.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think there's actually the PCC sport is going to help bring in a lot of new shooters, and especially women, just because there's not a lot of noise and it's a lot of fun to shoot. So it should be a good one for shooting sports.
That's cool. How did you get into all this?
My dad was very passionate about hunting and shooting, and he had 3 girls, and so he just kind of raised us shooting and hunting and having as much fun as we can.
So how did you transition from hunting and from just kind of doing it on your own and doing a little hunting? How did you transition to being a professional?
It's a good question. So my twin sister and I, who were competing in small bore prone, we ran into a guy who was working with a U.S. biathlon team. And biathlon is cross-country skiing and shooting for those people who don't know about it. And he said, you 2 girls are in the wrong sport. You need something that's a little more active. And he was right. And we tried it out and absolutely fell in love with it. And for us, it was as close to hunting on skis as you get in the Olympics, because biathlon originated as a form of hunting on skis. And just the combination of the 2 sports, endurance and then the skill sport of shooting, just really hooked us.
I think the only reason I know about the biathlon is what was that? There was a James Bond movie where Which one was that? Which one had the biathlon, and which James Bond was that?
I don't remember which one it is, but one of the ones with Sean Connery, I think.
Oh, was it? I thought it was one of the. I thought it was one of the ones with Roger. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to look it up. Anyway,
that's a good one.
So, what was it like competing? You were actually a 3-time Olympic biathlete. What was it like competing at that league?
It's one of those sports that's very unforgiving, but like I said, when the two sports come together, there's no better feeling in the world, and to be able to represent your country, in my opinion, there's no greater honor.
So talk about it. Like, what exactly happened? What was your experience?
So I competed in 3 Olympics, and each one was very, very different. First one was in 2006 in Torino, second one in Vancouver in Canada, and third one in Russia, Sochi. And first one was with my twin sister. Second one, she barely missed making the team, and I had the best U.S. finish up until that point, until this Olympic Games. And then last one, both my twin sister and I were heavy favorites to make the team. I got sick at the final trial. She rocked it, made the team, and then turned around and gave her spot to me so that I could go.
Really? That's wow. What a sister.
Yeah, definitely.
What was it like being around all the other what was it like being, I don't think there are a lot of other countries out there that really embrace the shooting sports like the United States. So what was it like talking to the other competitors, being an American?
It's really weird being in biathlon because it's actually right now it's the #1 most popular winter sport in Europe. It's surpassed downhill skiing and hockey and all those other sports, and it's a gun sport. And the Europeans and the International Biathlon Union did a really great job at making it more of a sport than a gun sport. And they made it very spectator friendly. We'll have anywhere from 30 to 50,000 spectators watching us, and it's really exciting. And it's kind of weird going over to Europe and having a huge crowd in a gun sport, and then coming back to the U.S. and maybe getting our parents to come and watch.
Lanny, when you're competing in a biathlon, what are the distances? Because you've got to ski, and then you have to stop and do some kind of precision shot. So you've got to quiet yourself down and then go again. So what distances are you skiing and shooting on those things?
Yeah, so our longest race is about 9 miles, 10 miles, and our shortest is about 5 or 6. And usually we'll do a lap, which is at least a mile before we can come in to shoot. We carry the gun on our back like a backpack, and we ski into the shooting range, lay down on a mat, shoot prone, and we have 5 shots for 5 targets. And if you miss, you have to ski an extra 150 meters, and you're shooting at 50 meters. That's the distance, and it's always the same range that you come back in.
So is it a challenge to quiet your heart down and before you can make that shot, or are you guys in such good shape that it really doesn't go up, so it doesn't matter?
Well, actually, that's probably the biggest misconception with biathlon is people think that we get in that Zen moment and calm our heart rate down to, like 30 beats per minute. But we actually shoot with a heart rate around 180 beats per minute. And the reason being is that...
that's my resting heart rate, by the way.
That's pretty incredible. But biathlon became so popular that you didn't have time to drop your heart rate. And so if you come in at 180 beats per minute, it actually makes it easier to shoot. And I know it sounds funny, but if you think of an EKG, the peaks and valleys, the more time you have between beats, the more barrel movement. So at 180, it's just a tiny little hum. So you have a very, very controlled movement. At 130, 140, you have that big thud of time between your heart rates. So it actually, you get more barrel movement.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that. We were fooling around at the range on Friday, and we were just shooting a little Ruger 1022, but we were shooting at Q-tips about 15 yards out, and just watching, just trying to steady the rifle down enough to hit a Q-tip at 15 yards was challenging, and I know my heart rate probably wasn't at 130, but still it was challenging to do that. I was really surprised, actually.
What kind of gun are you using when you're shooting a biathlon?
So in biathlon, we use 22 caliber, and they're mostly on shoots. No one has really made a rifle that is good enough to compete with on shoots. So they kind of hold monopoly on the biathlon.
I can't quite. It's called on shoot.
On shoots.
On shoots.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not familiar.
It's a German rifle.
Oh, cool. Well, the Germans, are all about precision and rifles, aren't they?
Yep.
Well, that's cool. So have you noticed, I mean, there's a lot of, everything that's gone on in the last couple of years with COVID and the mostly peaceful protests and, everything that's gone on and the chaotic, a little bit of a chaotic world for the last couple of years. So we've had a lot of new gun owners. Is that something you've come across when you've been traveling?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I have requests all the time from people for training courses and just people asking questions on, saying that they really feel like they need to become a new gun owner and what should they get and how should they go about learning how to shoot and, the things like that. So I've encountered that quite a bit. Nice.
I mean, it's exciting, right?
It is, yeah. And I think it can definitely be a good thing. And I really hope that the new gun owners are, taking that responsibility of going out and getting the training or finding someone that can teach them how to do it properly.
That's something we work on a lot here in San Diego for sure. We have a lot of different programs where we've done a lot of outreach to new shooters in hopes of, gathering as many as we can to teach them what they need to know. So, Lanny, we're gonna go to break here. We hang out with us for one more segment.
Absolutely.
Well, does selling your home feel overwhelming? Well, it doesn't have to be that way with Scott Vinson from Coldwell Banker Royal Realty. Scott Vinson is the perfect guy to help you sell or buy your home. Scott has also been a San Diego County gun owner board member from the start. So if you're moving, let fellow Second Amendment supporter and real estate broker Scott Vinson help you sell your home and find your new home anywhere in the United States. Call him today at 619-948-2459. Tell him that you heard about him on Gun Owners Radio. Call Scott at 619-948-2459 or online at scottvinson.com, and that's Vinson. All right, we're talking to professional three-gunner, artist, public speaker, chef, and three-time Olympic biathlete, Lanny Barnes. Lanny, we got a flood of messages when we were on the air. People wanted us to know it was For Your Eyes Only, and that was a Roger Moore movie where they featured the biathlon. So we got to the bottom of that, Lanny.
There we go.
Yeah, we can both get some sleep tonight.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So we have one of our co-hosts here is Action Jackson. How old are you, Jackson?
8.
He's 8 years old. Every week he goes, just about every week he goes and practices with a coach shooting your. What gun do you shoot most often?
I am currently shooting a Glock 44 chambered in 9mm.
Yeah. 8-year-old, and he goes through hundreds of rounds with a trainer. Excellent job. He's just getting into. He wants to start getting into competition. Probably something IPSC or IDPA or something along those lines. What advice do you have for him or for anybody that wants to get into competition shooting?
Probably the best advice that I was given was to keep it fun. Shooting is one of those sports that you can do your entire life. I mean, look at Jerry Mitchell. He's been doing it forever. And because you can do it so long, you have to make sure that you love it and enjoy it. Otherwise, if you get burnt out, then, it's hard to stick with it long term.
Interesting. So how do you keep it? What do you do to keep it fun?
Well, I don't know if you've ever visited my Instagram or social media pages.
I have. That's actually why I'm asking, basically. Yeah. Talk about some of the things you do to keep it fun that you show on your IG and other social media.
Yeah. So as a 3-time Olympian, having competed and trained at the highest level in sport, it's easy to get burnt out at having done that with the regular training. And so what I do is I'll put in the work with the regular training, the bill drills and the repetitions and dry fire and stuff like that. But at the end of every practice, I give myself some sort of challenge, and it's usually a trick shot. My twin sister will come up with something, or I'll come up with something, and then I'll try it out, and sometimes it's successful, sometimes not, but it's always something to look forward to at the end of training.
Well, I mean, it's got to be frustrating. I mean, you're on the road, you go halfway across the country, enter a competition, you got to, pull into the hotel or whatever, and you got to go to this new place you've never been, and you got to sign up and blah, 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 blah. That stuff's wearing. That stuff wears you out. And then if you don't have a good day, or you're getting halfway through the competition and things just aren't going your way, and, that's got to be, like, what do you do? Like, how do you keep from, throwing your baseball glove down and going home and saying, I quit? Like, how do you know what I mean? How do you regulate your frustration?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because no matter what level you're at, you're always going to get frustrated. There's going to be days where things aren't going right and you get frustrated. But, for me, I've always been one of those people that I don't quit no matter what.
Yeah, nice.
And, I have that drive that I push myself, but I also think of the other people that help me along the way, because no one gets to where they're at or succeeds or anything without the help of family and friends and coaches and, things like that. So I always think about those people that have helped me along the way, and that gives me motivation to keep going. So
do you travel? Do you have an entourage or a group or a coach, or is it just like when you're working at home, you work with your coach?
No, I actually don't have a coach. It's me, myself, and I. And
wow.
When I was training for the Olympics and biathlon, we had a huge entourage with the U.S. Olympic Committee and the U.S. Biathlon Association coaches and staff. But now, as a professional shooter, it's usually just myself.
Wow. So Jackson's got a couple questions for you. What was the question you wanted to ask?
And so, first, what's your favorite gun to shoot?
Good question.
That's a really, really good question. People ask that all the time, and I would have to say my Olympic biathlon rifle, because it competed in 3 Olympics, and it's very special and not replaceable. But it's so hard, because I love shooting so much that I love every gun I'm shooting at that moment.
Wow. Well, when you're doing 3 guns, he's got one more question, but before we go to the next question, you're doing 3 guns, so that's pistol, rifle, and shotgun. So what typically do you use? What's your go-to handgun when you're shooting 3 gun?
I shoot a staccato 9mm and the XL, and absolutely love it. Handgun has always been a challenge for me. I'm, a rifle shooter by trade, and so I've been really, really hammering hard on the training for handgun to get better over the years.
Wow. Why do you think it is? Why do you think that? What's the struggle? Why do you think there's a struggle with handgun?
I think just because I grew up as a long gun shooter, and I didn't start shooting a handgun until probably 2014, and right about the time when I retired from my Olympic career. And so there was a little bit of a learning curve, switching over from long gun to a handgun for sure.
Interesting. When you're doing 3 gun, what's your rifle?
I use a JP15 2G3.
Yeah, those guys are pretty good, right? I've heard really good things.
Yeah, they're really, no one can match their accuracy, and I've been shooting with them since 2014, and absolutely love them.
I've heard that. I was going to put a brake on my AR. I was going to put one of their brakes on my AR, but I bought my AR a long time ago, and I wanted an AK, and they talked me into the guy at the shop. I didn't know what I was doing. This is over 20 years ago, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew I wanted an AK because it was in Red Dawn, and he talked me into getting an AR. So I ended up getting an AR, but now I have it. It's got an AK-74 brake on it, and I refuse to go. So I have an AR with an AK brake on it, and I refuse to change. But I was looking at one of their brakes. I shot it on another friend of mine's. You don't really think about that either, how important a brake is. Like, what does it really, really do? And I shot one of their brakes on a friend of mine on his AR, And what it does, and maybe you can explain it better, is your follow-up shot, you don't have to, your gun doesn't move. If you get the right break on your AR and you shoot, and you got your glass and everything lined up, and you pull the trigger and do everything right, you don't have to re-aim, basically. Your gun stays put, right? Isn't that kind of what you're looking for out of a good break?
Yeah, absolutely. And JP has been known for that. Their muzzle brakes and things like that, they've really mastered it. I mean, that's why I love their PCC so much. The JP5 it's basically pointed so that the gas goes straight up. So when you shoot, the gas goes up. It keeps the muzzle down, and there's absolutely no recoil on it. It's like shooting a .22. It's kind of like cheating.
It's kind of like cheating. Yeah, I was very impressed. I mean, I'm not, I'm not sponsored by them. I don't know, but I was really impressed by their break. Like I said, the only reason I don't have one on my AR is because I have kind of a sentimental thing going on with my stupid AR. Now, I think that's probably a good excuse, Lanny, to buy another. Maybe I should buy a second AR, right?
Everybody's got to have at least 2, maybe 3.
There you go. Well, if you talk to the guys, let them know that there's this little radio show out in San Diego, and there's a guy on there that only has one AR. So maybe you can hint.
You got it. I'll put in a good word.
All right, Jackson, we got another question, didn't you? What were you going to ask her?
Do you do any other Olympics?
That's a good question. I only competed in 3 Olympics in biathlon, but my twin sister and I have always talked about jumping into another sport for summer or things like that. But
Greco-Roman wrestling.
We have to, or ping pong. I'm okay at ping pong.
Really? Seriously? That's pretty interesting. Do you guys really play a lot of ping pong?
Yeah, we actually did quite a bit of ping pong growing up. We had one our family would play, and then that besides soccer, that was another thing where you travel the world, and that was kind of international language, soccer and ping pong. No matter where you went, people knew how to play both sports.
That's interesting. Why did you try? You say you traveled the world when you were a kid?
Travel the world for competitions.
Oh, okay, for competitions.
So, yeah.
There was always a ping pong table set up, huh?
Always a ping pong table and a little soccer match somewhere.
So, Lanny, it's we live in California. At least the show's in California, and we have most of our listeners are here in San Diego or in Southern California. It's a rough world out here for gun owners. Politically, culturally, we're doing a good job of changing that. But what advice do you have? What would you like to see gun owners do? How would you like them to get involved, or what are your thoughts when you read the news and hear about the struggles of gun owners across the country? What do you think? What should we be doing more of?
I think it's one of those things where I'm from Colorado, so we have a lot of the same issues. I call Colorado California light because it seems like if you guys do something, it follows in our state as well. But I think one of the things is people just need to realize how important and how special the right to bear arms is. I've traveled the entire world and been in countries where they don't have these rights, and I think a lot of Americans take that for granted, and I think taking pride in the fact that you are a gun owner and you can do something about it. A lot of people think, I'm too busy, I can't, there's nothing I could do. But, one letter or one phone call or just something every once in a while will make a big difference. Yeah,
join an organization. I say that I'm probably a little biased because I run an organization. I'm trying to get more people to join it. But I got to tell you, help support the folks that are supporting your Second Amendment rights. Lanny, if people want to follow you, where should they go?
They can check me out on social media, Lanny Oakley, or lannyoakley.com.
On their website. The reason why is because they just don't have a clear message. You are wasting money if you don't have a clear message. Well, Sage Tree gets it. Since 2005, Sage Tree has been helping companies connect with customers here in San Diego and across the nation. Contact them today to get a better return on investment from your marketing dollars. Go to sagetree.com to learn a whole lot more.
I was thinking, Joe, how they talk about mostly peaceful protests. I don't think that what's going on in Ukraine, I don't think we should call that an invasion. We should call it a mostly peaceful military action.
Yeah, you're probably late. There's probably stations that are already doing that. Well, it depends though on who's I guess who the bad guy is. That determines whether it's a mostly peaceful protest or not.
Well, that's the interesting part to me is, who the bad guy is in this. I actually put up it's supposed to be, a smart aleck, tongue in cheek, little comment.
Hey, Michael, I liked it. Okay, your Facebook post was hilarious to me.
Thank you. So what I said was deciding which are the good guys between Russia and Ukraine is like deciding who are the good guys between the Oakland Raiders and the Las Vegas Raiders. Thank you. And the point of that, I think, was lost on a lot of people. I got to tell you, I was kind of surprised. I was really shocked at the comments. I mean, it's the same thing, though. Every time there's an issue, people draw a line in the sand, and it's it's like pick one. And if you pick one of these, there's not a third option. There's not a fourth option. Don't bother to try to dig in and explain why you're picking one or the other. And oh, by the way, if you pick the wrong one, then you hate children, you hate the troops, you hate America. It's so ridiculous. But I'm watching now. Obviously, I think that people that are supporting Ukraine are supporting a couple things. They're supporting the idea that invading a country is wrong, right? Which
you would hope.
Yeah, I mean, invading a country is wrong. You're right. Okay, gotcha. But number two, they just hate Russia. Okay, I'm not a fan. My favorite movie's Red Dawn. Right? Not a fan of Russia, but they're like, to turn the Ukraine and their government into heroes is absolutely foolish and ridiculous. I mean, there really isn't much of a good guy here. Ukraine, not good guys.
Sure
Russia, certainly not good guys.
They're better guys than they were. And the current president
he's a comedian.
Well, he's moving in the right direction anyway. I guess he is less bad than the last regime that was there.
Low bar, but yeah. Well, maybe he's less.
We don't support low bars around here.
Oh God, do we support low bars?
Who did we replace Saddam with? It's we do that.
Well, so that's the other thing. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I think something that people find interesting, another thing that got lost on this series of comments on my Facebook page, is I was talking to a buddy of mine, big, long career in the Pentagon, combat vet. He was in the Army, really, really smart guy, really, really well-informed. The interesting thing, and I'm paraphrasing from a conversation. I don't want to say I'm quoting him or whatever, but basically the narrative from Russia is not, hey, we're invading and annexing the Ukraine. It's hey, we are going into Ukraine to liberate them from a horrible dictator who stole an election. Which is, okay.
Familiar.
Right? Isn't that the whole thing? It's like, well, that's an interesting message. And you got to start. I'm not saying, I don't know. It just feels like when it's our bad guy, we're cool with it. When it's when it's the other person's bad guy, then oh my gosh, there is a distinct possibility that maybe we should just go, hey, you know what? This is a domestic issue. Let's just stay out.
Well, why are we even messing with it?
That's kind of what I'm saying.
I mean, they don't belong to NATO. I mean, why?
Well, they are an amazingly important source of revenue for the Biden family. So
I rest my case.
Yeah, and it's not so much. You have to look at the people there. I mean, those people that are actually suffering through this, the ones that are being wiped out now, the 100,000 or so that are scrambling across the border.
Yeah.
They don't really have a choice. I mean, it's not like the stupid people in this country that had a choice and we picked what we picked.
Right.
A lot of times they didn't have the choice now, and it's unfortunate. Because you've got a bad government and a worse government, I guess, duking it out. But the people there are the ones that are suffering.
I agree with you 100% there, Joe. Honestly, the people there, and I also kind of feel sorry for the 20-year-old Russian soldier who's just was told, "Hey, you're going to be a soldier. Get on the truck, drive to the Ukraine and go kill some people."
Yeah, but I mean that's what we have in this world, and I think we get lost over here in this country, and you forget that there are truly evil people in this world. I mean, there really, really, truly are, and Putin is one of them.
Yep.
The communist Chinese are another bunch, And what keeps them in check, and you can laugh about this, liberals say what they say, but it's a strong America. And we really do lead these people in spite of what the Europeans might think. And if we're perceived as weak, which we are right now, they do what they need to do. And if you look at Putin's a KGB guy. That's what he was his entire career. He was the head of the KGB in East Germany when that went under. And, he is unhappy that the Soviet Union is gone, and he's, looking to get that back. I mean, that's what he's been doing. And he has an opportunity now. He's got a 4-year window to do that. And we're seeing that kind of stuff. And, the Chinese are another scary thing. They really, really want Taiwan. Are they going to do something like that now? And it's, it's unfortunate. I would rather see the Americans stay out of all this stuff too, but you can't. And, the problem is when we stay out, it kind of creates a vacuum and other people step in. And
we are the
that's
police.
what happens.
We are the police.
It stinks, but that's how it is.
Well, one of the things that was interesting, somebody brought up the point that, a few years ago, they told the Ukraine, hey, get rid of your nukes. And number one, by the way, the reason we wanted Ukraine to not have nukes is they weren't they're not good people. Or, they're not a good government, I should say. I don't want to get too judgmental. If you're Ukrainian, you're a fine person, I'm sure. But now you get invaded, if you don't have the ability to defend yourself. And I think that that's a macro example of a micro lesson that people should learn is never, ever, ever give up your ability to defend yourself.
Well, they could have gave up the nukes and replaced them with what they don't have. But you being a half full glass kind of guy, you would be thrilled to be in Ukraine.
What's that?
You get a new gun.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
And ammo.
Yeah, they're giving out guns and ammo.
The opposite of a buyback now. Huh?
Right, they're giving them to you. Well, I try not to be political or anything like that, but there's why? What is the United States reason for helping them other than being the cop of the world?
What help are we actually giving them? We're not.
Wait, hold on.
Say
Say the Ukrainian in the box.
No, I'm not the Ukrainian. Hold on.
You look like one.
Oh, thank you. But I was just going to say, and what's Biden doing to try to see what he can do to help? He asked China yesterday to help with the whole situation. Why would China be involved at this point? I don't understand. They're against us in the first place, so. It's the equivalent of me going up to a kid and punching him and then realize, oh, I'm in trouble. Quick, kid, I told you that. I know I did punch you that one time, but maybe you can let me off this
Just
one
don't
time.
say nothing.
Exactly, yeah. So it makes no sense.
Follow the money.
Yep, that's exactly
Follow the money.
Yeah,
We'll be
couldn't
done
agree
with it.
more. Couldn't agree more.
Well, I think selling them arms isn't even a.
Are we selling them arms?
We should. I'm
or
all
are
for
we
that.
Giving them arms.
Well, I think we should probably sell, but I'm all for giving people the ability
Ways
to defend
protect
themselves. Yeah, send them Stinger missiles.
But look at Russia's war machine.
Well,
Did you hear about the paratroopers?
No. Well,
they landed in Ukraine
in an elementary school.
No, and they walked up to some Ukrainians and said, "Excuse me, can you show me where the front is?" And they said, "Sure, turn around." And they handcuffed them, and they're prisoners of war.
Yeah, well, so my understanding is the way that the conventional troops are fighting, the Russians' conventional troops, so not their special operations, but their conventional troops, their ground pounders or whatever, failing miserably.
With their iPhones, they're texting their moms and their girlfriends. They're leaving. They're dropping their weapons.
I'm hearing, yeah, and I'm hearing it's a kind of a miserable failure. Had we ever gone to war with Russia,
because they don't know why they're fighting them.
Well,
all they know is they're fighting them because of Putin.
Well, I think they're undertrained and underfunded, and
undermotivated.
Yeah, they probably don't even know their preferred pronouns like our troops do. Huh?
Well, of course not. But I mean, it's fault. I mean, and now the problem that I see with that is Putin's going to get really angry, and I think this is why he's bringing out his top echelon people, and he's going to go in there and clean house.
Oh, I don't know. I'm wondering if Ukraine can pull this off.
No.
Over
the long haul. Not over the long haul. There's just 900,000 against 120,000.
You think there's going to be a second wave? I did read an article that a couple of multi-billionaires, Russian billionaires, are coming out and saying, "Hey, you know what? We don't want this. We don't want this
because we just
invasion."
locked up their money.
Well, exactly. I mean, listen, I got to tell you, capitalism is the most peaceful economic
deterrent.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at all the economic
yachts, homes,
you can't make money in the middle of a war
No,
unless
if you
you're
take
a
away my
government
yacht,
contractor.
you're going to take away my
Yeah.
Well, and that may be the way to go. I mean, that's what set this up in the first place. Us, we were energy independent a couple of years ago,
Right.
and now we are no longer. And we buy. And I thought I saw 529,000 barrels a month,
from
oil
Russia.
From Russia. And then somebody showed me it was like 500,000 a day.
No, it's a
from
day.
there.
It's a day.
And I mean that we funded this. I mean we've made him wealthy like that.
And there was a California politician that went on the news and said, "No, we don't need to open up any pipelines. This is not affecting the price of fuel."
Well, I just thought it was. I can't believe everybody. I mean, I don't know. I understand the overall point that they're trying to make as far as invasions go, but man,
but you can
siding
get a
with
new
Ukraine,
gun. You
Well,
get
that's-
on an airplane.
I didn't know that before. Maybe I'm on Team Ukraine now.
Get on an airplane. Go over there.
Come on, Mike.
Jackson's going.
I can be bought. You want to go to Ukraine? Get a free gun?
Go get a free gun and a box of bullets.
Tyranny in the Second Amendment. Let's talk about it with Joe Dramisi next.
But first, PRMI Mortgage, primeres.com/Alpine. Are you in the military? Are you looking for help for a VA loan? And if you're looking to buy or refi, or if you're just considering the reverse mortgage, call our local mortgage guy that you can trust. Call Chris Wiley at PRMI Mortgage. For nearly 25 years, Chris has been helping local San Diegans with all their mortgage needs. Call Chris Wiley at 619-722-1303 or primeres.com/Alpine. All right, Joe.
We're ready?
You're ready.
All right. So, we started talking about this a little bit last week, tyranny in the Second Amendment. But we talked about government by consent of the people. That's how we describe our government. And the question is, is it still government by consent if the people can't say no? If you don't have your ability to say no, then what does consent mean? So started thinking about that when, and again, I published this a couple of days ago on the getagrip.substack.com site and also on our San Diego County Gun Owners blog page. But I was thinking about this with the truck drivers protest up in Canada. And what Trudeau had done, where he invoked, I guess, his Emergency Powers Act. And that gave him sweeping powers, actually, to go after these protesters who really were peaceful protesters by all accounts. I mean, some of the media and stuff were trying to say, they were Nazis and they were this and they were that. But they, by most accounts, by most rational accounts, they were just peaceful protesters. Did they tie things up? Yes, certainly they did. They had an effect, but it looks like, most of the Canadians were behind them. And, Trudeau enacted, I guess, his Emergency Powers Act, which gave him sweeping authority. And some of the things that they were doing, aside from a kind of violent response from their police up there, there was one clip there with their horses, I guess, were trampling through protesters. And they happened to trample looked like an older handicapped woman. And, so they were responding pretty violently. And then they were freezing bank accounts and things like that. And they made the announcement that, it was anybody that was even remotely friendly towards or supporting these protesters. And, and all that was a little bit earlier in the week, and that's since gotten resolved, and he's backed off on it. But, the thought is, when you look at places like that, like Canada, if you look at what's happened over the last couple of years with all the COVID stuff, in countries that we generally view as democracies and free countries, places like Australia, like New Zealand, like a lot of the European countries, like the United States, we've had a lot of our rights just trampled under in the name of this COVID thing and these emergency powers. And it's really interesting how, I think how fragile our rights are. And when we look at the Second Amendment, that's what the Second Amendment is there for, really. It's the people's ultimate way of saying no. We give our consent. We elect these politicians to office to represent us. And then we agree that, okay, we'll abide by your laws. You make the laws, you do that stuff, and we'll allow ourselves to be governed by you. If we're not happy with that, then we have our elections and we can put new people in. But when you have, when you have politicians, I guess, that can wipe that kind of stuff out and enact these, say, emergency powers that allow them to do pretty much anything they want to do under the guise of, for your own safety, because that's what we heard all through the COVID stuff. And if you look back through dictators and authoritarian governments and all that stuff throughout history, they always start like that. It always starts that we're doing these things for your safety, to keep you safe. And, I don't want to go through and use the Hitler example and stuff, but I mean, that's exactly what they did there. They do that all around the place. And it's interesting, you would think that kind of stuff can't happen here in the United States. Senator Rand Paul came out last week and said, our president has essentially the same powers that Trudeau had. He could do exactly the same thing down here. And this has been something, this isn't a new thing. Rand Paul was saying they were trying to get rid of that back when Trump was president, and they just weren't able to. And it's interesting when you look at the reaction of people. There was a Trafalgar poll that came out last week, and they talked to, or what they did, first off, they went through and they looked at just, they took a group of just voters in general in America, registered voters. And it turned out that about 55% of the voters they talked to disapproved of what was going on in Canada with the action the government was taking, and which I kind of think is a little bit low. But they found 55% of voters in general disapproved of that. But then what's interesting is when they limit it to Republican voters, and you have a disapproval rate of about 87%, which to me, that makes more sense because I think people generally that consider themselves Republicans, not the Republican Party, but people that generally consider themselves Republicans tend to be more conservative and tend to be more aware of rights and individual rights, and they seem to be more supportive of that. When they looked at independent voters, there was a 74% disapproval rate, which again I think makes sense with independents, the way they might think. What's interesting is when they looked at the Democrat voters, they limited the Democrat voters, and they found 66% approving of the actions that the Trudeau government took.
Wow, 66% approved.
Yeah,
that's high.
Of Democrat voter. Well, it's interesting because does that mean that one way to say this is that they, that side of the aisle tends to crave authoritarian governments? Is that what they're saying there? Because when you look at that kind of stuff, we were joking about the mostly peaceful protest thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, peaceful. we went through what, 6-8 months of actual real riots, burning down cities all across the country, people being assaulted. There was a number of people murdered, billions of dollars in damage, and our corrupt media is calling that mostly peaceful protesting. With the truckers in Canada, that actually was peaceful protest. That's what we're supposed to do. And this kind of society, we have that ability to protest like that peacefully. And yet that's, you see the heavy-handed reaction to that kind of stuff. And, you have to wonder, could that happen down here? It'll be interesting on, I think, Tuesday. We have our own little truckers protest going on. I don't think it's going to be as popular, or I don't think it's going to get as big as what they did in Canada, but they're supposed to roll into Washington on, I think, Tuesday. That's State of the Union. Tuesday.
Is that happening?
I think it's bigger than what you think, my friend.
We'll see. I mean, I don't,
because they're coming from all points.
They're supposed to be, yeah. It's and I don't. I have
already put the fence back up around the White House.
Yes, yeah. At the first drop of the hat, there, you know, it's we got to put fences back up.
And they said that the Biden administration said they will not put up with this. They've already alerted the.
Well, see, and that's what, and again, they will not put up with peaceful protests.
Nope.
But riots are okay, depending on who's doing the rioting.
So peaceful bad, mostly peaceful good.
But they've already got the National Guard on alert. They're getting ready.
This is all going to happen in Washington D.C.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think because I think Tuesday night's the State of the Union, so I think that's when they were planning to get there. Because the truckers are saying what they want to do is lock up the Beltway all around Washington. And it'll be interesting, to see if they do. But I mean, that is peaceful protest. That's what we're supposed to be doing in this country. When you remember when we were having the mostly peaceful protests, and even here in San Diego, freeways were blocked. They blocked streets, they blocked freeways, and police really didn't do much about that. So it'll be interesting to see if do you have that kind of response in Washington? We'll see.
It's like a plot of like an 80s movie. All these truckers, and Convoy and BJ McKay and his best friend Bear and everything. The whole thing. This is great. Everything's coming back. Everything from my childhood's coming back. Truckers and, Soviet Union, and it's great.
We need the sheriff from, was it Smoking the Bandit?
There you go.
the sheriff and his son, all right?
Gun control is just another phrase for victim disarmament. Nikki became a Second Amendment activist and victims' right advocate after the brutal murder of her husband, Ben, by a man that had been stalking her. We're going to talk to her next.
So, folks, clean, lube, and protect your guns faster and easier with Seal One. Seal One CLP Plus is also natural, non-toxic, and environmentally friendly. Are you tired of smelling like a gas station after cleaning your gun? Well, try Seal One. Ask for it by name at your local gun shop, and if they don't have it, ask them to get it. Clean your guns faster and better with Seal One.
Okay, the executive director of the Crime Prevention Research Center, which is someone that another person you've all heard of, who heads up one of the other people involved, I should say, in the Crime Prevention Research Center is John Lott, who's done a ton of research when it comes to gun issues and that sort of thing. But we're going to talk to the executive director, Nikki Goeser. Nikki, are you there?
Yes. Hi there. Is this Michael?
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me on. Nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on. Very much appreciated. Why don't we just start with talk a little bit about the Crime Prevention Research Center.
Sure. The Crime Prevention Research Center, it's a tongue twister, I know. We are a nonprofit organization. We look at changes in laws across the nation and how they impact crime rates, in particular gun laws. But you can visit our website. It is crimeresearch.org.
And I think one of the most, I think probably the broadest thing that's come of John Lott's research that people are most surprised by, or maybe had the biggest impact, is the concept that, more guns, less crime. Wouldn't you say? I mean, that's a pretty big, maybe it's counterintuitive to a lot of people at first glance, but it's definitely, I think it's kind of its biggest mark. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, we have found time and time again that those places that have more freedom, where more law-abiding people, good people, can carry in more places, you see a drop in crime. Bad guys, they are not stupid. They can be very smart. And bad guys don't want to be confronted by someone who they perceive to be a victim, but that victim has a way to stop them.
Wow. So as the executive director of the organization, like what are some of your duties? What are you attempting to do for the organization?
Oh gosh, I do a little bit of everything. I help manage the website, our database, correspondence, emails, phone calls. I go testify where I'm needed. I give talks. I write opinion pieces. I do interviews like I'm doing with you. I try to educate the public as best as I can. What was it? Last year, I went and testified before Congress against red flag laws, which a lot of people, they think, oh my gosh, how can that be? You're a victim of a violent crime. Your husband was murdered right in front of you by a stalker. Somebody like you should be all for red flag laws. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And I had to explain, and it made perfect sense to Congress. The Democrats didn't even question me. They stayed away from me. But
now, when you're talking about red flag law, that's a really broad term, but most specific is the most common form the gun violence restraining orders. Is that the specific proposal that they're talking about?
No, Congress, the Democrats are wanting to incentivize more and more states to take on their own red flag laws, and I don't want to see that expanded at all, because it's unconstitutional. Due process does not happen first. Your rights are taken from you first. You're guilty automatically right up front. And somehow you've got to prove that you're innocent. And that's not the way it's supposed to work in this country. You're innocent until you're proven guilty. And we already have laws. And I explained this to Congress. We already have laws on the books right now that would address these issues with, mental health, people that are perceived to be dangerous. You're concerned someone's dangerous. Florida has a law on the books. It's called the Baker Act, but it's basically an involuntary commitment type law. Every state has it. They call it different things in different states, but it's pretty much the same, and it's available in every state. And if you truly believe that someone is a danger to themselves or others, and you have proof of that, then you know what? You can go before a judge and provide that proof. And then they can put that person on a 72-hour hold. A mental health expert is actually involved. That's not the case with red flag laws. And they evaluate the person, and they determine, does this person truly have a problem? Are they dangerous? And then the person goes before a judge. And that judge will make a determination based on the facts whether this person needs to be committed. Is this person dangerous? Do they need, to go to outpatient treatment? Should they have guns taken away from them? But that due process happens before you lose your rights. And we can be using these laws right now. I don't understand why people feel the need to, expand red flag laws. I think it's unconstitutional. It's not fair. And I also explained that it can really have a really horrible negative impact on victims of violent crime.
Tell us about that.
Well, you think about, people that go through horrific, traumatic situations, good people. Are you going to be depressed? Yeah. You know what? That's normal. You would not be normal if you were not depressed, is what I would say. That's a natural human reaction. Are you going to have whatever people call PTSD, trauma, stress? Yeah, you are. It doesn't automatically mean that you're a danger to yourself or others. I think it could have a very bad impact on the very people who may need to protect themselves right away. You're a victim of a violent crime. They don't keep these bad guys locked up. These guys are let back out.
So,
Who do you think their target's going to be?
Nikki, this is Joe. When you point out this kind of, these arguments to the people that are advocating these laws and things, what's the response? I mean, how do they try to justify or rationalize their position like that? Because, a lot of those laws, and especially in your case too, it was just, what happened was just tragic. And these ridiculous gun control laws actually make it more dangerous for more people than anything else. But when you put that logical argument to them, what's the response?
Well, of course, Republicans and libertarians, they agree with me. Democrats stay away from me. They do not want to debate me on that. But I'll point this out too, waiting periods. That one just is so stupid, a waiting period. Okay. In terms of, mass public shooters, people that want to do great harm to many, many people and get a high body bag count, anyone that has studied the manifestos of these people, because they're out there, these guys write about what they're going to do. They plan this stuff, months in advance, sometimes years in advance. A waiting period is not going to stop them. But I tell you what a waiting period will do. It will prevent a woman who is being stalked, someone who's dealing with a domestic violence situation. She's just left her husband who's abusive or an ex, and she's got to get a gun quickly to protect herself. She's in fear for her life. A waiting period will stop her from being able to get a gun quickly to protect her life and her loved ones.
No, exactly. And, it's interesting you bring that up now because I'm in the middle of my waiting period at this very moment. So it's like, if I wanted to harm somebody with a firearm and apparently I couldn't use one of the 20 firearms I already have. I have to go buy a new one. But then the 10-day waiting period will let me calm down, so that won't happen. But yeah, it's like you're saying. It's these laws endanger people. They don't make it any safer for anybody.
You know why we're particularly focused on red flag laws, why we want you to talk about that is, I don't know if you remember a few years ago in the Huffington Post, I'm pretty sure, there was an op-ed by the city attorney of San Diego where she talked all about expanding red flag laws, and not just in San Diego, but across California and hopefully across the nation. And her name was Mara Elliott. Do you remember that?
No, I can't say I do.
So she's extremely, extremely anti-gun. She's the city attorney here in San Diego, and her right-hand man is a guy named John Hemmerling, and he has been extremely aggressive in expanding the red flag laws. And he's running for sheriff of San Diego County. And he's actually, I know you were talking a lot about the difference between Republicans and Democrats. He is the endorsed candidate for the Republican Party. And his career was basically, for the last few years, was expanding gun violence restraining orders. It's everything's backwards out here in California, I'll tell you. So that's why we're particularly interested. That's why we wanted you to talk about it. We've been talking about it a lot. He's a catastrophe waiting to happen. We're hoping he's not qualified, so we're hoping that he won't get any traction. But just being endorsed by the Republican Party here in San Diego has at least made him, a possibility, and it's scary. I think the other two leading candidates are Democrats, both pro-gun, both pro-CCW. Definitely have nowhere near the view on red flag laws that the Republican does, that John Hemmerling does. But it's a scary situation. Everything you said is completely accurate. It's a very scary situation.
It is very scary. And people don't stop and think, what better way for an abuser to disarm someone that they want to harm than a red flag law? Think about that. And I'm not saying that it's only women that are victims, but men can also be domestic violence victims and victims of stalking. But in general, the majority of the time, it is women that are stalked and women that are abused in general. But regardless, whoever is being abused, if they have a firearm and let's say they've left their partner, their abusive partner, they've moved, they've got their own apartment, their own house, they're armed now, and their ex that was abusing them, who knows they have a gun, well, they can just use a red flag law to disarm them, and then they can harm them, and that person has no way to protect themselves.
Hey, Nikki.
Yes.
Hey, we got to take a small break, but don't you go anywhere, okay?
Okay.
About me. Hey, we're really proud to partner with the National Concealed Carry Association as a 10-ring partner. NCCA exists to serve the Second Amendment community by providing nationwide network of two-way advocates. They offer elite self-defense and concealed carry training from the nation's top instructors. They provide rock-bottom prices on the best selection of gear and accessories. Join them today. Members get great prices, free shipping. You can learn a whole lot more. Just go to nationalconcealedcarryassociation.com.
Okay, we're talking to Nikki Goeser from the what's the exact name? The Crime Prevention Research Center. John Lott and his work. She's the executive director, and having a great conversation with her. I really, really appreciate it. I want you to talk about your story in here just a couple minutes, but I wanted to ask you a couple questions. First off, do you carry every day?
Yes, absolutely.
You carry every single day. All right. Well, my co-host here, Action Jackson's got a question for you. He's got a question for you. Go for it, Jackson.
What's your favorite gun?
Oh, my favorite gun?
Yep.
That's a tough one because my favorite gun is not a gun that you would actually carry on you every day for self-defense. My favorite gun is my Henry Golden Boy lever action 22 rifle.
Nice. You're the second person.
My favorite gun.
You're the second person we've asked today, and the second person that picked a 22 caliber. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a fun plinking gun. I love it.
What part?
It's pretty accurate too.
I forget which part of the country are you in?
I'm in Tennessee.
You're in Tennessee, so it's easy to get a carry license in Tennessee, right?
Yeah, and we actually just passed constitutional carry So this year we've started carrying without permits. Of course, I've got my permit, and I'll continue to have one because I travel a lot and I need it for reciprocity purposes. But, I feel like, I struggled. I'm going to be honest with you. And some people might kind of cringe about this, but I'm just going to tell you the truth. There for a while,
Yeah.
I actually struggled with the whole constitutional carry thing because in my mind at the time, I'm thinking, gosh, training is so important. And what if people start carrying and they don't really understand gun safety? And, it could just be a huge hot mess. And the more I thought about this, I thought, what other rights do you have to pay the government for? Like, you should not have to pay the government for a permit so that you can carry. You don't have to pay the government anytime you want to speak. You don't have to pay the government when you want to vote. I mean, you should be able to carry. And it took a while for me to actually accept constitutional carry. But I do now because I feel like we have the right to protect ourselves. It is our Second Amendment right, and it's the one right that protects all other rights. And you should not have to pay the government in order to take part in that right.
So,
Do I think that you need training? Yes, absolutely. But that is something that you should do on your own as a responsible, law-abiding citizen. Get the training. Know what you're doing. Understand the laws on justifiable use of force, on self-defense, because you can get yourself in a world of trouble if you don't know what you're doing.
So Nikki, I went through the same thing. I took a little different direction on it because I wrote about that a couple of months ago, and we had Chris Chang from Top Shot, and then we had Ursula Williams. They were both on the show. She's a competitive shooter from Arizona, and I had mentioned, I was writing about I think constitutional carry, and I mentioned that reservation, and it was exactly the same thing about the training. And because, I teach that stuff, I write about it all the time, and I'm real big on training. And my fear is that, okay, constitutional carry, people won't understand the laws necessarily, and there's a danger, they can get themselves in trouble. And both Chris and Ursula, immediately jumped on it and said the same thing, basically. They said it's not the state's responsibility to take care of these people and make sure they do what they're supposed to do. You're supposed to be responsible. If you're going to carry a gun, it's up to you to do the things that you need to do. And I discovered that, I probably felt that way. I just didn't know I felt that way. But I have reservations too until that day in the studio, and now I'm pretty much on board with it. I don't have those reservations anymore.
Yeah, and I think at least Dr. Lott. I'm not the statistics expert that he is, but
who is?
According to Dr. Lott, these states that have passed constitutional carry, they actually see more people getting permits just because they want the training and they want the permit for reciprocity.
It is important. It is important. We teach people how to get their CCWs here in San Diego, and we spend a significant portion of the seminar pushing the idea of how important it is to get the training, not necessarily the marksmanship, but learning the laws, learning the legalities and ethics of lethal force, that kind of stuff. That's what's really important.
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you, my firearms trainer, I actually got my handgun carry permit back in April of 2008. And my trainer, he was ex-law enforcement. He was actually on the bomb squad. He was kind of a little bit scary, but really cool, if that makes any sense.
That's how I describe Jackson here. So, yeah, it makes sense.
He scared the crap out of us in class. He would show us really horrible, awful videos of really horrible, awful things that can happen.
Jeez.
And he would show us different scenarios of self-defense and shoot, don't shoot scenarios. and he'll stop the video and say, okay, do you think the guy had the right to shoot that person? And we're like, well, no, that was like murder. And then he shows you a different angle of the camera. He replays it, and he's like, actually, he was totally justified, and here's why. So you have to be real careful about what you see on the news, too, because sometimes they don't tell the whole story.
What? Are you serious, Nikki?
That almost sounds like they're almost hiding something.
I know, right? Or like they're pushing a narrative. They're trying to get you to believe something that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So what is the big what are you guys attempting to do? I guess if you had to sum up, like, hey, our organization wants to accomplish this or wants to be this, how would you describe it? You guys, endlessly interesting information. I've met Dr. Lott before. I've listened to his lectures. I've read his books. Great guy, great information. But what exactly is the organization looking to, trying to do?
Well, I can tell you what I'm trying to do.
Sure.
I can't speak for John, but I can tell you that from my point of view, we're trying to educate the public and legislators, lawmakers around the country so that they understand that gun ownership is not bad. Legal, law-abiding people, good people owning guns, and being able to protect themselves and their loved ones, it has an effect. And it means that there's less crime and there's less victims, and that's meaningful. And unfortunately, the mainstream media, they fail to tell the public the truth. And so many of these mass public shootings, it's like 94% of these mass public shootings happen in gun-free zones. They're not going to tell the public that, but they're places where no one can carry to protect themselves. These people are sitting ducks.
That's a crazy high statistic. 94% is that's not an accident.
But Nikki, if you were going to go shoot, where would you shoot? You would shoot in an area where
they weren't going to shoot back.
They're not going to shoot back. And our government hasn't quite figured that out yet.
Well, let me tell you how gun control impacted my life. Back in 2009, my husband, Ben, was murdered right in front of me by a man who was stalking me. And at the time, in the state of Tennessee, you were not allowed to carry a firearm into any restaurant if they also served alcohol. So I followed that law, and I left my legal, permitted firearm that I normally carried for self-defense locked inside of my vehicle that night. My stalker, who did not have a permit to carry, brought a gun in to a gun-free zone in the middle of a busy restaurant. When I asked management to please remove him because I realized I was being stalked, he shot my husband in the head. He then stood over Ben and continued to fire 6 more rounds into him in front of myself, all the patrons, and security cameras. I will probably wonder for the rest of my life if I could have prevented that. Of course, I'll never know because I was denied a chance. I was stalked and defenseless. So I've just tried to educate people as best as I can about the real dangers of gun-free zones.
I've heard your story before. I've heard you tell it before, and it never
gets easy.
Yeah, it's just absolutely crazy. I'm so sorry that happened to you, and I truly wish for peace, because I know but this is the first time we've ever spoke. But again, I've heard your story many times, and that's the first thing that goes through my head is that for the rest of your life you're going to wonder, and I truly hope that you find peace.
Yeah, I would like to find peace myself, but unfortunately, my stalker is not allowing that. He has continued to stalk me. He's just doing it from prison now.
Jeez.
For many, many years, he has been sending twisted love letters, and the feds actually just charged him last year. And he's got to go to federal court. He's facing federal stalking charges now. It's an additional 5 years in a federal prison if he's convicted, which he will be.
Yeah.
How long is he in for now? What would that be a total?
Unfortunately, it was a bench trial. There was no jury. And even after hearing all of the overwhelming evidence proving first-degree premeditated murder. The judge dropped it to second degree. He only got 23 years, and he's been allowed early release credit. So he's going to be released in less than 7 years now.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Thank you so much. How can people find your organization and support you?
You can find us at crimeresearch.org. And my book is called Stalked and Defenseless. You can purchase that at Amazon or at Barnes & Noble online.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, you just amazing job. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day calling in, and we wish you all the best, and our heart goes out to you.
Thank you. Keep packing.
You got it, girl. We are going top drawer, folks. We are so excited to welcome Leo Hamill Fine Jewelry as our newest sponsor. Mike's got a Rolex, and he's looking really good.
I don't have a Rolex.
Yeah, you do. It's right there.
I don't even have a Rolodex.
Hey, when it comes to jewelry, Leo Hamill is the one-stop shop for all your needs. Rings, bracelets, earrings, necklaces, watches, new, pre-owned. They sell it all. And did you know that Leo is a fierce Second Amendment advocate? Leo's also a board member of San Diego County Gun Owners. So when you shop at Leo Hamill's, not only will you find the perfect gift for your wife or boyfriend, you'll also be supporting the Second Amendment. Support the companies that support your gun rights. Make shopping easy and give Leo a call to get their monthly catalog, 619-819-9422. Awesome selection, great service, wonderful deals. Call them at 619-819-9422. But your Rolex does look good.
I don't have a Rolex.
Hey, you know, the same people that didn't get the Dawn joke didn't get the Rolodex joke either.
They probably didn't get the Rolodex.
I got it.
Those don't exist anymore, do they?
Actually, somebody showed me one the other day. I'm getting some business cards made.
Yeah.
And she whips out her Rolodex, and she said it's the coolest thing. She'd never seen one before.
I do not, listeners, I do not have I'm not even wearing a watch. I don't have a Rolex.
No, that's the one around your neck.
Rolex,
that's not a Rolex.
Rolexes don't come in my size, Jackson. Do they?
Don't even touch it, Jackson.
Maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
So kind.
All right. Speaking of Rolexes, Stump My Nephew. This is our best and favorite segment. My nephew, Sam, is Sam the Gunman.
Who almost certainly has a Rolex.
I'm sure he does. We found out years ago that he is a whiz when it comes to gun trivia. So if you send in a question and we use it on the radio, we'll give you a hat or a shirt. If you stump him, we'll give you a super cool, really neat grand prize.
That was good. Could we?
It's not going to be a Rolex, by the way.
It's not going to be a Rolex.
Can we get the "I'm the Whiz" thing from Seinfeld play for this segment now?
I don't even know. Is that
you haven't seen that? The
No.
"I'm the Whiz"?
No. Is that a Seinfeld thing?
Oh yeah, it's a.
Everything's a Seinfeld thing. There was a point about 10, 15 years ago when I would just, in the middle of a conversation, I'd be like, hey, this is kind of like that Seinfeld episode. And inevitably, somebody'd be like, oh, yeah, it is. I didn't see a single episode of Seinfeld.
You have not seen Seinfeld?
No, I didn't see a single episode.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't see them until they were in reruns.
But if you say that,
that's great.
Folks, ladies and gentlemen listening, try that. Next time you're sitting there and people are having a conversation, just randomly say, this is kind of like that Seinfeld episode. Almost guarantee you they'll say, oh, yeah, it is. All right, where were we? All right, man.
The Whiz.
Yeah, the Whiz. Sam, you there?
This is kind of like that Seinfeld episode.
Hey, look, he got a laugh.
How you doing, man?
I'm all right. How are you guys?
Doing well. Do you have a
Can't you
Rolex?
tell?
He's winding it as we speak.
Actually, Sam's actually a good. Okay, Sam, how old are you, buddy?
22.
22 years old. What is a Rolodex?
A Rolodex is mechanically kind of like a binder, and you use it as sort of a personal card catalog of your contacts, and no one has them anymore. Because
Hey, I got one.
Yeah, that's not your question for the
You were hoping.
All right, listen. IBM released the Model 5150 personal computer in 1981. That's 41 years ago. I think I'm not trying to pressure you, but it might be worth considering an upgrade.
Might be time to move away from my Rolodex.
Yeah.
All right,
maybe.
that's fair. So what was it? The model was a 5150?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. All right, man. Are you ready for your question?
Sure, let's have it.
All right, Action Jackson is he's practicing your question. Go for it, buddy. You ready to go?
Yep.
All right, go for it. Who sent it in?
Colin from San Diego asked, "What is a Makarov round?"
I don't blame you.
So he wants to know.
Why do you give him these difficult questions?
He wants to know what a Makarov round is. Makarov.
Sounds like macaron.
It does, right?
Macaroni.
Who wrote in the question?
Colin from San Diego. We didn't make that one up. That's a real place.
Colin from San Diego. Thanks for writing in. The Makarov pistol was developed in Russia and is to this day widely used by Russian and other former Eastern Bloc militaries and police forces. It is typically chambered in 9x18 Makarov. And it's kind of funny. Some people don't realize that there are different chamberings, different cartridges with similar names. So, like they'll buy 9mm Makarov and wonder why it won't fit in their 9mm Parabellum chambered pistol. It's a different round. It's a different size.
It's amazing. Here's what they wrote. The 9x18 Makarov is a Soviet pistol and submachine gun cartridge. During the later half of the 20th century, it was a standard military pistol cartridge of the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc. Similar to the 9x19 millimeter Parabellum in NATO and Western Bloc military use, the 9x18 Makarov is ballistically inferior to the 9mm Parabellum. Testing has indicated that the cartridge develops pressures in the mid-20K PSI range, significantly lower than the 35K PSI generated by the 9mm Parabellum load, which 9mm Parabellum is what all of us, if we own a 9mm, well, most of us, about 99% of us that have a 9mm, that's what we're using. Excellent job. You got it right, bud.
Correct!
That's amazing, man.
9mm Makarov is about on par with a 380, depending on the loading. I think it's a little bit more powerful than a 380, but it's similar in size and similar in performance. And part of the reason they developed that is because they wanted to replace their Tokarev pistols, which were chambered in 7.62 by 25. And that's a pretty hot round, very powerful, and so it requires a pistol with a locked breech in order to fire safely. Like the Tokarev is similar to a 1911 mechanically. And so the Soviet Union realized that they wanted to be able to produce a very large number of very simple pistols to save cost, because you're not fighting a war primarily with pistols. So if you can make the pistol cheaper, you can make more rifles. And so they did that. They designed the 9mm Makarov, which is a little bit of a less powerful round, and it's kind of at the upper end of what you can reasonably fit into a simple blowback-operated pistol like the Makarov, which is really pretty similar to a Walther PPK functionally.
So do you think there are Makarovs in the Ukraine right now?
Oh, yeah, without question.
So they use it. This is standard issue still?
Yeah, I don't know how many millions of the things were made, but it has very few parts, and it's pretty reliable, and it's actually very svelte. You could concealed carry a Makarov with no problem. And so they were used very widely by a number of Eastern Bloc countries. And there are several countries that were aligned with the Soviet Union to some degree that developed their own pistols around that cartridge. Like the Polish didn't use Makarovs, but they used 9mm Makarov chambered pistols. Same with Czechoslovakia. But the Makarov itself was very widely used and continues to be widely used.
That's amazing. Hey, what can you tell us about I'm putting you on the spot. What can you tell us about the Ukraine military?
I don't know too terribly much about their force strength going into this conflict.
It's a mostly peaceful conflict.
They were largely equipped with the same type of stuff that the Russians had at the moment that the Soviet Union fell, because Ukraine was one of the former Soviet republics. It was actually part of the USSR. So they had all the same equipment that the Soviet Union had, except that because Ukraine is a smaller country with a smaller GDP and a smaller military budget, they weren't able to modernize as much as Russia was able to. So they have basically older versions of most of the same stuff.
There really, now that you say that, there hasn't really been. I mean, if you go back to 1989 when the Soviet Union fell, we were using F-16s, F-18s, F-15s, for example. But now, we're using F-35s, and there have been F-22s. The Russians, has there been a major development? I mean, I was just talking planes, but I don't really think there's been a lot of major technological advancements in the Russian military in the last 30 years, has there?
Oh, there have been. In aerospace, yeah. The Russians are pretty good engineers, and they have some fairly advanced jet aircraft, fighter aircraft, that they've been selling with great success to other countries. Because if you're some small developing country, you want a modern air force, but you don't have the ability to develop the aircraft yourself. And the Russians have been able to develop some pretty advanced aircraft, but I don't know exactly how many and of what makes and models they're using right now.
And do you think everybody's using? I guess all the pictures I've seen too prove everyone's using an AK.
Yeah.
Both sides of the.
Without exception, pretty much.
Both sides, everybody's using it. All right, well, cool, man. That's pretty interesting. I did read. I don't know. Did you see that article where they already have an ace? They have a Ukrainian ace who shot down 5 MiGs already. I don't know if you read that article.
I suspect those reports are either greatly exaggerated or based on misinformation. I tend to be pretty slow to believe these kind of sensationalist reports until there's some kind of confirmation.
Well, if it's true, I definitely want to kiss their ace.
Sure, why not?
Okay, folks. Well, hey, thanks a million for calling in. But, hey, don't forget to support all our advertisers. San Diego County Gun Owners, U.S. Law Shield, the Dillon Law Group, PRMI Mortgage, Scott Vincent, Coldwell Banker, Royal Realty, Sage Street Web Development, National Concealed Carry Association, Seal One, Leo Hamill, Fine Jewelers. Welcome aboard, sir. Thanks to Joe Germisi, Michael Schwartz, Sam the Gunman, Action Jackson, and Brendan Thomas right here on Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The answer.